hello everybody, and we are doing part 2 on this glass bear. If you're wanting to see kind of how we came up to this bear as we are right now, or up to current, you can go back to our glass bear live stream, and that's where I started the glass bear. So I'm just doing a continuation of this just to kind of show where we basically the finishing of this bear. And there are some pointers that I'd like to go ahead and give out on this. And it's basically, we're continuing doing a layering process, and not only layering, but we are looking at the colors. So if you're wanting to do something that looks like glass, or yeah, pretty much anything that looks like glass, or it can be anything at all, not just glass, but I know some people do have trouble with doing glass. And the main thing is when you're painting glass, when you're doing color pencil and it's glass, or anything else of that matter, don't look at it as though it's a piece of glass. Look at it based off of the colors and where they are. So that's basically what I did. When I had this bear drawn out, I didn't put in every single little swirl, curve, nothing like that. I had maybe like the two big ones, or maybe where the legs are, as you can see right there, just like some major little things that I kind of want to see where the start and stop of was. But anything else, it's like, no, you don't have to put that in, just get it close. So if your lines where it swirls doesn't swirl exactly the same way, that's perfectly fine. Just try and go in the same direction as what the reference photo shows, and you should be good to go. And then just look at the colors, look at where the light blues are, look at where your lighter colors are, your darker colors are, and place those colors in the same area that you see in your reference photo. Now, it did have like this greenish kind of tint inside the glass in the reference photo. So in order for me to get that, I mixed up some of my colors, my greens. I think it was more like a teal, or a, let me see here, the exact color is a bright aqua green, and I mixed it in with a little bit of maple yellow, and then I put it in. Now, I did notice that it was a little bit too green than the reference photo, and I wanted to tone that down. So in order to tone that green down to where it fits more into that bear, or looks more like glass, I waited until it completely dried, and then I would take my cobalt blue, and I would add enough water to my cobalt blue to make it more like a glaze. And then I would just glaze over that green with it. And that toned it right down. It added that blue to over the top of it, just to push it back some to where it's not in your face green sticking out there. It actually blended it in very, very nicely with the other darker and lighter colored blues that we have in this glass. So that's basically all I'm doing right now, is just putting in my darks where they need to go. I'm putting in my lights where they need to go, my mid-tones. I didn't mix up every single color to match identical to the bear. I just got it close. I mean, that's all you really got to do. But you just got to make sure your dark areas are in there where they need to be, close to where they need to be, like on the reference photo, and make sure you put your lights where they need to be. So focus more of your attention to the color variation in your reference photo. I mean, that's basically all I can really say, because I do that with pretty much all of my paintings, is I'm looking where the lights are, where the darks are. I'm looking at where a blue goes to, you know, how far over does the blue go before it starts transitioning into a lighter color blue. So I just look for those colors. I don't necessarily look at, you know, a glass bear, because when I started with this, believe me, it looked wild. I mean, when you first start, you're just like, okay, that does not look like glass. But as you keep going and you push your way through it, just putting in those colors where they need to be, then you're going to start getting that look of a glass. And that's exactly what I was doing on this one. So here I'm just placing out some of my mid-tone blue. It's kind of a lighter blue, but it's not my lightest blue that I can go to. I can actually go lighter than that, but I don't want to. You can start out with some of your darker areas and put all your darks in first too. You can do that. I have a tendency to jump around. So sometimes I'll put in my lighter color blues, or my mid-tone blues, should I say, and then I'll go back and say, see some darks in there and think, oh, I need to go back in and add those darks in. So I kind of jump around from time to time. I do leave some of my canvas showing where it's white, like a sparkle, like a really bright sparkle. I do leave an area white where that sparkle is. Like if it's a really big, bright sparkle, I'll leave it white. And then at the very end, I'll come back in and add my white. Now, if you're thinking, okay, well, if the canvas is white, why are you coming back in and adding white? Well, first things first, I do that because it's easier to find. I mean, whatever I'm painting, if I leave an area blank where there is supposed to be really white, I know to go back to that area because it's white and needs to be painted. Plus that, I can reshape it the way it needs to be. So even though I left it white, it still needs to be painted white, or even a lighter blue, or a little hint of blue maybe in it. It'll still look white. You could do that. But I go back in and I add that brighter color in because I can see where it's at. Now here, with this darker blue, it just wasn't dark enough. So I took some of my, here we go, the color I love to say, my Persian blue, or Prussian blue, and I ended up taking a little bit of black and mixing it in with it to make it even darker. So I needed a little bit more of that darker look. And that's when I came back in and added it to some of the areas of my dark blue that's already there. Now that really brought it out even more. And so adding those darks like that in there really makes the others really pop out. Oh, there's my little sign. And if you could, if you've been watching this and you do enjoy this, please leave a like and subscribe. Subscribe if you haven't already. Definitely helps the channel by clicking a like. So yeah, please do that. It helps. But anyways, back to our painting that I enjoy talking about. I can talk all day. But the next thing I do is just kind of map those areas out. So in a way, it's almost like I'm drawing in those dark blues where they need to go. Putting in my lights in and around it. Sometimes it's really good to do that without drying it, because when you add your light blue in there, it kind of blends a little bit around the edge of that darker blue, and it adds a transition to it, kind of like kind of fades into it, which is really, really nice, gives it a nice look. But if you're wanting to layer on top or anything like that, then I would definitely dry your paper first, or not your paper, your canvas. I don't know why I'm saying paper all the time. And I usually go and use a fine mist sprayer to spray this, just to make sure to keep it wet when working on it. It makes the brush go a lot smoother over the top of the canvas, and makes it to where you can add more of a longer line and a more flowing line with your brush if you were to keep your canvas wet. Not dripping wet. You don't want it to drip, because then you're going to have some issues with some paint run. But if you can just mist it like one time to be able to keep that canvas kind of wet, it makes it so much easier. And I had to make sure this canvas was wet, because silly me, I ended up pulling out one of my cheaper canvases. I say my cheaper canvases. I got it from Blicks and I needed to use them. So I grabbed it. Well, I ended up grabbing one that I did not gesso. So it's already pre-gessoed, but it's really rough. And when you're trying to paint detail on rough paper, it really doesn't work out very well. So that's my bad. I should have gessoed it and sandpapered it. And usually I do that with about 3 coats of gesso, 2 to 3 coats of gesso, and then sand it out with a fine tooth sandpaper. So that way I got a lot more smoother canvas to work on, instead of this really rough sandpapery type canvas that makes it super hard to work on. So nonetheless, that's just something that I should have done, and what I'm having to work with right now. So now we're doing the chain. I am basically adding in the black in the center, so that way I can kind of divide this chain up. Then I end up making sure that I'm going to go up and over the top of this canvas with the chain. So there's 2 white lines going up and over the canvas too. I'm taking a really fine brush right now going over the little loop thingy. It has a little glass loop that holds the chain, and I'm using a size 0 brush. Now that can vary between different brush brands. I have a size 0 in one of my other brands that is way bigger than the one I'm using right now. So, but it is a very fine brush. I'm taking a mid-tone and I'm just making little circles going, or little circles or little ovals going all the way up and over the top of the canvas. Now I'm doing the same thing with this side by making little ovals all the way up and over the canvas. Now, they're not perfect ovals by far. They're just little ovals. It doesn't really cover up every part of this chain, and I really don't want to, because I'm going to go back in like I'm doing now. I'm adding in some darks, or my Prussian blue. Hope I'm saying that right. And I am adding that in by looking at my reference photo to kind of see where those little darker blue areas are on the chain. So I'm just making those little bitty marks going all the way up and over the top of the canvas. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side with my darker blue, going all the way up. And then I'll go up over the top of the canvas, so that way the chain goes all the way up and over. Now I'm going to take some black, and well, right now I'm actually taking a mid-tone, another tone of blue. You may not be able to see it that clearly, and just kind of hitting up like one side of the chain. So that way it's got another color blue in there, but it's really hard to see by far, but it is in there. Going up and up over it, and then I'm taking a black, and I'm just kind of shaping these little chain, just kind of shaping it out around the corners, just in case I got a little out of line there, and I can readjust and make the little chain a little bit more cleaner. And the center, just kind of shaping that up a little bit with black. Now comes the very last part, which is adding in that bright little reflection, because it did have quite a bit of reflection in it. So I'm just making a little dot in the center of the little chain with some highlight, and then I'm kind of making a secondary dot here and there on the inside of the chain. And I'll end up doing that to the other side. Sorry about the blurry screen. It definitely did not want to focus on me for that 1 second. But that definitely gives it the illusion of a sparkly little glass chain. So this is the end of it. Here is my finished piece where I am signing it. And if you guys, like I said, if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be more videos to come. And there is my finished piece. See y'all next time. Bye.